Hello, all, and welcome back to Mind Juice. Wow, am I elated to be back in front of the mic. And of course, stoked to be back again amongst this amazing community, conversation, and discussion. I realize I have not returned as swiftly as typical. To this, I can say, no worries, my friends. I'm 100% alright and just as present as always. The time away, no content, is and was merely personal, being overhauled with life's responsibilities. I had a few weddings, work, family, etc. You get it. I'm sure everyone can relate. I am amidst shifting and focusing my life to be able to begin doing this full time. Mind juice, victim awareness, advocacy, voice. So, although it has been a few weeks, I have been just as ever deep in thought concerning this case and further mind juice as a whole at that, each and every day, which is why I'm aiming to do this full time. It is where my heart lies, my true passion in life. Side note, I want to thank everyone for reaching out, checking in, continuing to send and forward information on the case to me. I appreciate it more than you know, and it has made a difference. So yes, everything is good, all is well. Life's just been happening. I hope everyone else out there is doing great. Now, I intended on releasing this piece a few days ago, earlier this week in fact, but I was so captivated following the Titan submersible storylines and unfortunately the tragedy that turned out to be, and the 700 migrants who sunk in the ship, and now all this stuff that's happening over in Russia. The world seems to have a lot of chaos, but then again, I feel like it's been absolute chaos for quite some time, unfortunately. But nevertheless, here we go. With the inquest being just a day or so away, which the process is expected to last to Monday and Tuesday, I thought it was important for myself, Mind Juice, to check back in with everyone regarding Nicola Bulley, her family and friends, and the sad reality this has cast upon everyone. I believe it is important to ensure that the appropriate perspective and understanding of context, expectations going into the inquest remains grounded and realistic. I want to clarify this as we go along. Also, briefly, I want to discuss and comment on a few aspects of the case in general as we go along here in regards to the investigation, handling, etc., to where we are now to fully remind and underscore the key issues with this case, which I fortunately do not think will become any more clear. In fact, will likely only bring and cause more questions than answers post-inquest, I'm afraid. Now, not to be negative, I'm being realistic. If you consider the facts, the timeline, behavior of the officials all throughout, as I discussed in my previous content, the investigation, how the case grew over time, how every mishap, thing that did not make sense, was merely washed away, ignored, or simply covered up. Further, I specifically want to highlight Peter Faulding in his latest and apparently last comment, Jason Rothwell and his ever-changing story of his accounts that day, and also I want to comment on the latest Curtis media arrest for the second time, and its timing in correlation with the inquest. To get things started, let us consider the purpose and intentions behind the inquest in regards to the case of Nicola Bulley. Yes, we all know and have a general idea as to what to expect come Monday and Tuesday's inquest, but to be strictly clear, an inquest is a public judicial inquiry to find the answers to a limited but important set of questions. Who the deceased was, when and where they died, and the medical cause of their death. That is it. Now, if you get into the specifics, there's an oath that the coroner, their focus is only on the medical cause and this and that, right? I'm not going to get all the way into that. But it's important to note that if there was any criminal or investigatory leads that were still being hashed out, they would have likely caused a halt in this inquest, or it would have been pushed back, right? Thus, at this point, we are to presume any and all legal related or criminal related issues or potential arcs in this story would have been dealt with prior to this date. That is already They weren't and haven't been, from what I can understand. I'll get into this angst here a bit later, but to refocus back on the inquest, this is where the coroner, Dr. James Adeley, becomes front and center. The Home Office coroner, Dr. Adeley, whom, in my opinion, has already made himself present, poking his head out, in what you could consider outside the scope of his investigation or line of work, to be brutally honest. He has seemed awfully concerned with the media narrative, right? And people making up opinions about why he had people investigating that part of the river that day, right? And I'll get into that. I think it's all part of the answers we're about to hear. I fully suspect that Dr. James Adeley will present himself well, coming across as a professional expert, but unfortunately, I'm afraid is going to sound a lot like phrases of, unfortunately, we are not able to determine, or we are not able to tell, or it is undetermined. Sadly, we cannot say, or there is no reason to believe there was anything else likely that was the cause of. You get the point, okay? Those are about to be the themes to what is said, in my opinion. Now, I do plan on tuning in to the inquest. I am not quite certain yet whether or not it will be televised or broadcast on the internet. I will figure that out. But I do plan on following it very closely, right there along with each and every one of you, and producing an episode to recap both day 1 as well as day 2 of the inquest's hearing and overall processes. But over the last month, as I have continued to reflect back on this case and the impending inquest that we're all waiting for, leading up into now, what can we really expect to learn? If you really think about it, remember, inquest is a brief answering to a small set of questions. Who was deceased, which we know is Nicola Bulley. The medical cause of her death, which is likely going to be drowning, right? Because it is the one medical cause wherein it is determined by excluding all other potential causes. So there is no one thing that's indicative of drowning. It is by the exclusion of all else. That'll likely be the cause of her death, right? The big 2 things that I'm paying attention to will be the logic, rationale, and science behind the answers to the when and where. Now, the original narrative was she was at the bench, her phone was there, Willow was there, okay? But as we've seen with Dr. James Adeley having his crew of divers go in past the Wier, watch the explanation start there. She will have left Willow and her phone behind, and then she wandered past the Wier. Why? Because we've shown that she couldn't have likely crested that Wier. She would have been found, right? So they have to logically start, and that's what, in my opinion, those divers were doing. They were getting the actual measurements, geographic coordinates, to where he could then fill it all in with an explanation that sounds airtight, right? So, I continue to digress. I apologize. But the when and the where will be important, because this will be the basis and the starting point, detailing his and their story or version of events, right? Covering it all up so they can close the book and hopefully all of us eventually just bug off, okay? Like I said, Snowden, Adeley, Becky, the writing's on the wall, right? We know she died on January 27th, approximately, right? Likely drowning, okay? Because again, it's the medical cause that's determined by excluding all other causes of death. It's not really easy to discern that it was drowning and caused by somebody else, right? They're going to have to be able to determine if she died prior to the drowning, which, again, how long was she exposed to the environment and elements could delay and muddy all of that, for lack of a better term. Either way, I think it's going to be non-definitive. They're not going to be able to give clarity, right? So the when and the where are and will be the manipulated aspects of this inquest, in my opinion. Why am I saying that? because of all the evidence that has led me to this point, right? The lady in that picture is not Nicola. It's Emma, right? The lady in the picture is wearing a ring. That's Emma. Her behavior shows that. She shows it, okay? They don't know how she drowned, right? They messed that up in the beginning. In fact, the police have pushed the in the river narrative the entire time. So to them, how or what caused it has seemingly somehow been irrelevant. So the when and the where were already filled out and confirmed as soon as Jason Rothwell alerted officials of her being found. Their working hypothesis was the river. The when and the where have always been the river. Right? Now it's just going to be the narrative that she wandered, right? Which they have nothing to base off of. Okay? The problem is the evidence, the photos, the ring, like I'd mentioned, Emma, not Nicola in the photo, reasoning behind Paul dropping the CCTV, police editing their website, removing photos, Becky clearly and publicly discounting legitimate investigative leads as nonsense so early on, changing the road names from Blackpool Lane, not checking Grape's Pub until 2 weeks after she went missing. I could go on and on and on. Like I said, the police fixed on a working hypothesis from day one. For what reason is and continued to be ignored and covered up, regardless of the common sense that refutes it. Here we are, awaiting inquest. What do you expect? Prepare yourselves. There will be a narrative wherein Nicola wandered, likely using her vulnerability jargon to insulate their rationale, leaving Willow behind, electing her own fate. Specifics will be undetermined or unable to discern, etc. You get the point. Sorry, I digress. Let us take a look at Peter Faulding quick. His latest, and like I mentioned, apparently last comment regarding Nicola Bulley and the case. Now, some people may think that I'm being a little harsh on the police, or I sound like I'm very opinionated. If this is your first time watching the content, please give me the benefit of the doubt. My content in the past has researched this stuff, and I have a pretty sound basis to feel the way I do, I believe. But this is unrelated, but I kind of wanted to share, since I'm always poking at the police. This was a couple weeks ago, here on their Facebook account. Unrelated, like I said, just listen to this here. Lancashire police. We're always amazed at how clever people think they're being when they try to outwit our traffic officers. Now, when I first read that, I was like, wow. Listen to the pedestal they speak from. Like, my first thought is like, they have this perspective that everyone's trying to outwit the police or trying to get away with something or trying to, and they're coming across as this like, not so smart. Look at this first person's comment. Nobody is trying to outwit the police. We just get lost in the moment when riding in a motorcycle, blah, blah, blah. Right? And I agree with this person 100%. Like, for them to, on their public official page, we're always amazed at how clever people think they are. Like, is that their attitude towards the public? Because I don't go out in the world every day to try to outsmart the police. So it's just interesting how authoritative or inferior, they make the public seem, you know what I mean? It's just interesting, their temperament, because they let Paul, say the stuff about the vulnerabilities on their Facebook page, of course, and they deleted it, unrelated. I just wanted to share. Before we get into this Peter Faulding article here, this is a Facebook post from him on behalf of SGI, and I know most people have read it, but I'm going to read through it really quick, okay? Peter Faulding, 1 day ago. Statement of Mr. Peter Faulding, CEO of Specialist Group International, SGI, regarding that Nicola Bulley inquest. Our thoughts are with Nicola's family and close friends, and we hope that the upcoming inquest into the death of Nicola Bulley provides the answers they are seeking and deserve. SGI were called to assist in the search for Nicola Bulley by Lancashire Constabulary following a request for SGI by the family. SGI, headed up by Peter Faulding, are a proven specialist with decades of relevant experience in underwater search. SGI operates an array of technologically advanced and cutting-edge equipment. Our work is always carried out to the highest professional standards with honor and integrity and always in the best interest of the families involved, putting their concerns first. Over the years, Peter and the team at SGI have located many missing persons and vital evidence, bringing closure, relief, and dignity to the deceased, their families, and friends while providing evidence for official investigations at the same time. And then it concludes, to clarify questions from the press and public, since leaving the scene at St. Michael's on Wier on 9th of February 2023, SGI or Peter Faulding have had no contact with Lancashire Constabulary regarding this case. SGI and Peter Faulding have not been requested to provide copies of the relevant side scan sonar search data. Of course they wouldn't want that, right? Search reports, photographs, or notes made at the scene and from the time spent with members of the family, friends, and police officers from Lancashire Constabulary. All of which Peter references there would document his perspective as to why she couldn't be here. She would have been found. They don't want that because it's going to contradict what their narrative is going to be, right? Furthermore, SGI or Peter Faulding have had no contact with HM Coroner, right? You'd think that you'd interact maybe a little bit. But yet, James Adeley has some divers go out and dive to find information, and as soon as someone records and posts it, he comes out in an article and warns people not to speculate. Why? I bet he was pissed that video got out, because it's revealing exactly what's going to happen. Like I said, they're going to somehow justify that she left Willow due to her vulnerabilities and her phone on that bench, wandered below the Wier, and then watch, there'll be a disturbance in the dirt, or they found at a later date some item of hers, or it will be something. There'll be something, right? And he got upset because that was revealed. Having Peter Faulding attend the inquest wouldn't help validate anything. If anything, it's going to inspire further interest in questions not answered, handling, why resources weren't moved here or there, right? Why was he not given the full disclosure of things, etc., right? Importantly, our thoughts remain with Nicola's family and friends. We do not wish to intrude on their grief at this difficult time. Our hope is that the privacy is respected and their wishes are put first as they go through the difficult period of the coroner's inquest. SGI and Peter Faulding will make no further comments. Hashtag Nicola Bulley. And we get to this article here. Diving expert who led private search for Nicola Bulley says he hasn't been asked for evidence at inquest. And like I said, his evidence, remember, is if she was here, we would have found her. You know, given the tidal flows of that river in the shallows, there's no way she could have made it out to sea. She should have been found. Right? His side scan sonar, which is 3D and very clear, didn't see anything. First they jumped in because he said she was in the reeds and tried to get him for that, but then Rothwell came out and revealed that she was floating in the middle of a river, so it got him off the hook there, right? Then there's information coming out he was removed from the experts list. No, he wasn't. That's a media slash, and you'll see it used again here, right? The diving specialist who led a private search for Nicola Bulley in Lancashire has said he has not been asked to give evidence at her inquest. Peter Faulding, CEO, who had assisted police with previous missing persons investigations, was asked by Miss Bulley's family, right, to help with the search after she disappeared near her home in St. Michael's. His team spent 3 days scanning a 3-mile stretch of the river Wier using sonar equipment, but did not find any trace of the mother of two in the section of the river they searched. The 45-year-old who had vanished while walking her dog. We all know this story, right? In a statement shared on Twitter today, Mr. Faulding revealed he has not been asked to give evidence at the inquest, which is taking place on the 26th of June. SGI was removed from the National Crime Agency's list of specialists following the involvement in Miss Bulley's case. See, they're still doing it. And like I've showed previously, Faulding came out and said that that's the narrative that's been spun. Why are they still doing it? Like, this is taking away his credibility. Well, and then people get to hear, well, yeah, that's why he wasn't asked. They're still knocking his credibility here, okay? But you got to look at it from a macro perspective. Everything that he opened up about and spoke about became controversial. But why? Because he was asking the honest questions. He was stating the truthful, honest observations from a professional expertise standpoint. Why is that the problem? Why is this evidence and his perspective not warranted to explain this beautiful lady's death? Right? It doesn't make sense. No, the coroner's doing it himself, sends out his own divers, months removed from the event, after the Wier. Now watch the narrative fit that. Right? And the crazy thing is they also don't want Jason Rothwell as a witness either. Okay? So you have Snowden saying the police did great work, which they did terrible work because they never found her. A psychic found her whose stories never add up. And his discovery isn't important either. Like, wouldn't his observations and his eyewitness account of how he first observed her be important to explain when and where she died? Like, it's not rocket science. It's an honest question. Like, if it was being done genuinely, why is Peter Faulding not there? His evidence, his video, his photographs, his observations, expertise. Why is Rothwell not included? No, it's left to the horses in their stable, so to speak. Before I get to this here, on Curtis, on Rothwell while we're talking about it, think of his accounts. Wouldn't they be important? The position of the body, the status, observations he had, movements he's seen, items present, visible, anomalies observed, right? Let's be real. You would think the initial discovery of her would be significant to include as to the who, when, where, how, or the medical cause. Simply for authentic inferences, insights, basis for understanding context, actual non-affiliated physical witness. Or supposedly, right? He very well could be affiliated with Becky or Paul, right? With that said, I've discussed and kind of hashed through him in the past in regards to his statements not adding up. One I hit on was how he claimed that when he was asked by a family member, which I determined to be Paul, he had made the comment that his 2 fish died, which aligned with the moon moving into Pisces, and that was a sign, right? Well, obtaining all this information from followers and subscribers, he's entertained this story quite well, I guess you can say. And I kind of wanted to share some of them. He mentions in one of them being shown pigs. A lot of people think those are the cops. But that was a pig pen along the road, meaning that was a sign that he had received, right? And then in terms of Nicola speaking to him, he states, she mentioned looking behind Dovestones. He couldn't figure it out at first, but Jason then goes on to state that in St. Michael's there's a house named Dovestones, as if this was giving him some direction, right? Why did these two things not come up when he interacted with me and my explanation, right? Doesn't mention anything about the fish and the moon moving into Pisces, right? This is the best one, get this. She, as in Nicola, in one of their first interactions of her reaching out to him, she said, I am with Hudson. Jason then proceeds to state that his pet dog named Hudson, whom died 2 days earlier, he interpreted to be that Nicola was with his dog. But he then was able to determine that this was a reference to Hudson's farm fishery, which then Curtis Media did a video here in the past. I don't know if you've seen that. Which then leads to where she was eventually found, which was right here. Right? So he's insinuating his dog that died 2 days prior to, named Hudson. He first interpreted that Nicola was with Hudson, but then he was able to configure that Hudson was actually the farm fishery, which then led him to... Okay. Point in being, was it the moon moved into Pisces and your 2 fish died? Or was it that your pet dog named Hudson died 2 days earlier, which led you to the farm fishery and then gave you direction? I'm just curious which one it is, because it can't be both and it can't be all, right? There's just no credibility there. And again, he's the one who found her. Like, how's this stuff not important? Why are we at Inquest? What happened to the criminal investigation, right? It just seems the most reasonable. I just can't seem to understand, right? Absolutely can't believe it. But yeah, I thought I'd share those. You would enjoy those. But let's get to this Curtis Media article here and kind of discuss it a little bit. And another thing too, the last time I uploaded a video, there's a lot of, I'm going to say, fighting or disagreements going on in the different communities in this case. And I just choose not to engage in that, for the most part. So that's the only comment I'm going to give on that. As far as in terms of me working with other creators, I exchange emails back and forth. And yes, I have respectful relationships with some of them in conversation, but that's the extent of it, right? I just don't want to lose focus of what the whole point is here. Okay, so this was just a couple days ago. We all know Curtis Media, right? And again, this is with his respect. This is not to brandish his name. It's just to kind of look at the way the media presents it and be honest and fair about it, right? TikToker arrested for sharing footage of Nicola Bulley's body being pulled from river says he is suing police after being held for talking to residents in her village. A TikToker arrested for sharing footage of Nicola Bulley's body being recovered from river has said he is suing police after being detained for stalking residents in her village. Curtis, 34, was arrested on June 18th, which was about a week ago, after cops spotted his car near St. Michael's on Wier, Lancashire, where the missing mom was found. Remember, he has that, what's it called? Not say restraining order, but he has that inclusion or that citation to where he's not to return there from the last time, okay? The YouTuber claimed he'd been driving to Blackpool to film a thunderstorm before traffic cops pulled him over after tailing him for a few miles. So he can travel through there, but he was arrested after his car was spotted near, okay? The constabulary confirmed his arrest and said he's now banned from entering the county as part of his bail conditions as investigations continue. He said, I already have a civil case against Lancs police for last time unlawful arrest. Well, good luck with that, buddy. Doesn't it look like whoever assesses their problems, remember, less than 1% ever actually face consequences, so good luck. This is no different. They arrested me to keep me away from the inquest. Right, recording and stuff. And that was his capturing of that. Arnold, who made several videos about the Nicola's disappearance, said he's also been ordered not to create any more content about her. He also claimed, which they really can't do that, he also claimed police only detained him to stop him from attending her inquest, which is crap. In a recent clip, Arnold said when they read out the details of the arrest, they just said this guy's been seen in the area of St. Michael's on multiple occasions and made videos on the area. Multiple people who live there basically feel distressed and they feel like the guy is harassing them, stalking them. That was the basis for the arrest. I'm not allowed to do videos on all these different people who have been named. Basically, they're people who live in St. Michael's, I think. They're obviously all put in their own report, but what they know of me, the blogger was one of several social media influencers who flocked to the Sleepy Village as a conspiracy theories gathered pace about whether the mother of two could be. He was first arrested on suspicion of malicious communications offenses and perverting the course of justice after uploading a clip of police recovering. Curtis, who was a barber by trade, claimed police had put a mark on his car and said he was shocked at being taken into custody again. He said of his arrest, I'm in shock, like genuinely in shock. There's no hidden agenda. There's no sort of thing where I've been stalking a particular person that you guys don't know about. So those videos that you see are what the stalking is, or what he's claiming he's stalking, right? if at all. A spokesperson from the police said on Sunday, officers arrested a 34-year-old man on suspicion of stalking. The man, whom is from Swindon, has now been released on conditional bail pending further inquiries. His bail conditions have prevent interference or intimidation of any, travel directly through, not enter language for any reason other than to travel through, and to continue without stopping. The man will report every Wednesday to Swindon Cable Gross Police Station. Okay, so I don't really want to comment on the right and the wrongness of this. Because it sounds from Curtis's perspective that he didn't have any bad intentions in this recent arrest. Like, they were out to get him. They were just waiting, lying in wait, and they nailed him the next time he got close. Could be. Or was he pushing the envelope too? He could have been. I don't know. He did say that, they didn't want me to attend the inquest. So were you implying that you planned to? Or where'd this idea come from? So it can go either way, right? So I don't really want to distinguish either way. But it is interesting how he did get pegged again. And then it does say, as investigations continue. So, could he have been filming in Thunderstorm? Who knows, right? Very interesting, and the timing of it. Do they not want him around it? Was he pressing the limit? Who knows? Wish him the best of luck. Or if he was impeding on his bond, or his stipulations, then maybe, it's a different discussion. But I remain neutral on that. So again, in this episode, I'm going to keep it real short and sweet here. I express my opinion throughout this content. I realize I may come across a little negative or gloomy in regards to my approach to the case and topic in this piece at this time, but I'm looking at everything from day one. I know I need to respect the process, the inquest. It's coming up. How could you say this now? I get it. But my major problem with this case is with the investigation, the criminal aspect, the honest detective inquiry, the lead chasing. Where's the objectivity? They were locked to one hypothesis from day one. The evidence they have is manipulated. The photos, you can tell. The CCTV was evidence and dropped out of nowhere, and we get no explanation. Snowden is forecasting the police behavior as being great. He is talking about the resolution of reviews before they happen. I've already went over all this. There are people and pawns in place that are playing their role, doing their part for some reason or another, and I believe Dr. James Adeley is just the next and final one, right? Why would you not want Peter Faulding at that inquest? And Jason Rothwell, no matter how credible he is or is not, he did witness seeing her, and he was competent enough to determine that he needed to call the police. I would say he would be able to explain what he then came upon. Why is that not important? I don't understand, right? This whole story is just crazy, right? To me, honestly, you could say the only thing that makes sense at this point is that the Lancashire police are running some psyop, or it's a witness protection ordeal, or, to be fair, you got some Essex boys, mafia, corrupt police embedding power puppets running things around there. Can I say that? Well, of course I can, because that's my opinion. If we're just supposed to believe these mishaps and what was said, by Becky, her the way she presented that, just apologies, let's move on. Come on, there's no way that people are just gonna buy that and look the other way, And I know in the past people have sent me tons of emails, so I'm going to address it here quick. The idea of Freemasonry potentially being involved. Now, I understand and acknowledge this and have spent quite a bit of time studying the topic throughout the past, but to me, Becky is too much involved and too much of an important piece as the SIO, right? If there is corruption here, being a female, Becky, being in such a pivotal position, I don't consider this angle very likely. No disrespect to women, of course, but Masonic Forum is strictly fraternal. That is all I'm saying, and for Becky to be out of the loop yet still act this way is too far for me to what if hypothesize. You get the point. But even since this, all the people that went missing and the cases, their Facebook is just littered with them constantly, right? Think of Nicola Bulley's case, how it was handled, the witnesses, how they disappeared. We don't really know who they are. The cameras worked, they didn't. Emma, Marsh Farm Hall, that's where they held the interview with Emma, and then they did with Paul. All Marsh Farm Hall, which is also within the tidal flow tides of where Nicola Bulley's body was eventually found, which is why I thought it was suspicious, right? But just the media coverage. Like I said, Emma did like 17 interviews. Name another case where that's prevalent. Like, if you honestly think about it, where it's got that much presence. Like, John Benet Ramsey, Casey Anthony, cases that have families that literally do that many interviews. Like, some cases, they do interviews, but literally, as a best friend, to partake in that many interviews is not normal, right? And then she happens to have the ring. I believe she's the one in the photo. Like, where are those answers, right? Here's the problem. We get the inquest, all that's supposedly taken care of, done and away with, right? Oh, the CCTV being released the way it was, the police removing photos, their accounts, like I said, their witnesses, normalcy of Nicola's behavior. We're leading an inquest. How could have Nicola Bulley come to her fate? What caused it? No Rothwell or Faulding. Yet, the coroner has assigned divers to go below the Wier and has warned against speculation. He's warned against speculation because that is what his official narrative will be. Speculation, because they are going off of the working hypothesis the police ran the whole time. Snowden has even publicly commended them on their great work. In fact, even goes so far as to say they were great all along. HM Coroner Dr. James Adeley will follow suit along with Snowden and Becky. The narrative will be she wandered from the mentioned gate, and Willow rationalizing this due to her vulnerabilities, i.e. likely including accounts to back this up, text messages, Paul's accounts, etc., as to her, disassociative state, or leading her to slip or enter the water below the Wier, followed up with fill-in, plug-and-play facts and calculations to fit the story, so as if this is the truth. Again, I'm not being negative. I am still held up by the problem. The police investigation into this case, the handling. All these reviews don't wipe away the corrupt look. Like Becky says, dogs can't speak now, can they? No, but us non-corrupt, sensitive humans out here who understand the love and relationship of a best friend, dog, know damn well some vulnerability reasoning as to why she left is not sufficient. No, I'm not claiming to be some dog whisperer. Oh, I can feel the vibe from Willow. Come on now. You get the point. And further, there will be nothing to validate this, as if they use some of her vulnerability or she may have had an episode. There will be nothing to validate this for certain, for any witness accounts are discredited. For if it's Emma, who we know saw her in the parking lot, it doesn't count, and I'm not even going to go there. Anyone else? Who would it be? Because we have yet to learn of who that would be, right? And if there was any concerns as to her state at that time, why then was she allowed to take her girls to school if there was such a concern? So with that said, there's going to be no witness accounts from anybody else to say they witnessed her in a certain state. Remember, there was an article saying that she was seen laughing, but now that article got deleted, right? Why did it get deleted? Well, here, maybe they're going to somehow twist into there's some sign that she was off that day, right? And I'm telling you ahead of time, there's nothing to validate that, so don't fall for it, okay? like I said, any vulnerability, use, justification will 100% be speculation, impossible to prove, and therefore is and will be an immense exhibition of disrespect if used in any way, in my opinion. For the only way it can be used is speculatively. This is not appropriate. And again, I'm not saying they're going to, but if you look at this here, okay, and I'm going to leave in this note, the coroner, okay, if he's only concerned with doing his job, which is to do the medical cause of death, who, when, where, how, right? The video goes online of two people of his divers digging around in the water on April 4th, which is 2 months, 60 days after the events of her going missing, roughly, okay? He comes out and warns speculation as to the role and purpose of the officers acting on my instruction is unhelpful in the resolution of this inquest. That's directly quoted from Dr. James Adeley, the coroner we're going to hear on Monday and Tuesday. Why is he concerned to come out and say that? He doesn't want speculation around it because that's the basis for what he's going to use as what happened to her, how, why, and when. Which is in fact going to be speculation itself if he does do that. Which I think this, in a psychological, I don't know how to explain it, way reveals it, right? Indirectly in reverse. And that's why I'm putting it out now to see how it plays out, right? I could be wrong on all this and I could eat my hat, but the fact that there's been no criminal charges in this case or any investigations done further with how off some of the direct evidence has been, matched with how that constabulary's attitude is towards the public, it can go over post over post over post, right? For him to come out and warn, like, this is not his place as the coroner, right? But yeah, the most heartfelt, truthful one in this whole thing, Faulding, isn't none of his information, just like Rothwell. None of his photos, video, none of, why? Because it's only going to prove that she wasn't there, and they want the opposite of that, right? Whew. But I wish everyone well. Let's hope the inquest goes well. Plan on me having some content out shortly after that concludes, within a day or so, 2 days, okay? Take some time to make these. So it's great to be back. Last note, remember when those divers were out in April 4th for the coroner, doing some investigations for him, that alternative coroner came out and suggested that they were looking for an item, right? And he was quick to discredit that. Adeley was. Pay attention for there to be an item found at this area below the Wier, and that's going to justify the police's working hypothesis this entire time. But my response to that is, in the very beginning, Becky stated that she has nothing that leads them to believe that there's any foul play. And my response was, of course you do. You have the Fitbit because it was unsynced 2 days before she went missing. Now watch them use the Fitbit as justification that led them to where they're going to say she went in. Okay? And I don't want to get all speculative, but watch. The coroner that came out and suggested they were finding something, be prepared for some type of item to present itself somewhere in this inquest. Alrighty, officially. Until next time, Mind Juice out.